I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, each year we try to visit with retiring faculty members at Missouri Southern State University, and today we're visiting with a person who has served many roles, faculty, coach, and administrator, Dr. Pat Lipira. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Your career at Southern is nearing an end, but not quite over yet. But I thank you for taking the time. Well, I know it's a very busy schedule for you this time of year.
Well, that's okay. I appreciate it.
Your feelings, as this academic year comes to an end and your end of your career is coming to an end. Every day kind of clicks by.
Yeah, I'm so busy that it's hard to, people say, oh, you counting down? You counting down? I go, well, I don't know, not really, because truthfully, I want it to go fast, but I want it to go slow because there's still so much to do. And I know Crystal and I, my assistant, we talk all the time about how many things are still in progress that we would love to put closure to, and we just don't know how feasible that is.
Right.
But yeah, so it's exciting, but yet there's still a lot that I'd love to, like I said, put a exclamation point on. We're done.
We finished this project. We took it on and we completed it. Right. Well, I'd like to on this program maybe review a little of your career for our viewers. And came to Missouri Southern in 1981. So let's go back to the beginning and what brought you to Missouri Southern?
Okay. Well, it's interesting. I knew that I wanted to be a teacher for a long time, and that's really what I wanted to do. I didn't plan on ever being a coach, to be honest with you. But when I left Northwest Missouri State, which is where I got my undergraduate, I had a degree in math and physical education. And again, it's so funny because I look back now and think some of those decisions we make that we have no idea why we made them really have an impact on what happens in your life. You don't realize it. But I did want to teach, and I knew I wanted to teach physical education, but I thought I liked everything. I didn't know what, but I really liked math. I'd taken a lot of high school math, so I got that. Not knowing for sure what I would do. Well, my first teaching job was at Liberty High School in North Kansas City, and it was math and it was coaching. But the funny story there is, again, you don't know how things are going to impact you. The AD, they brought in I was the math teacher, and they brought in a physical education teacher same time, and he said, who wants to be the head volleyball coach? And we both kind of said, well, I don't care. And so he flipped a coin. I called tails and won. So I became the head volleyball coach at Liberty High School and a math teacher. I did that for 2 years, and to be honest with you, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this high school thing. I just felt like I couldn't hardly teach. It was all discipline and this and that. So I decided I'd rather teach college students. So I went to K-State on a grad assistantship and got my master's. And it was weird there because it was a fall, spring, summer, and that summer I was thinking, oh, I need to start looking for a job, And so I just looked at college teaching jobs, and I did look at coaching, and Missouri Southern popped up, and I didn't know a lot about Missouri Southern. I played summer softball when I was a kid, and we came to Joplin once, so I knew that much.
Right.
Again, I saw it and applied, and golly, my first job was head volleyball, head softball, head intramural director, 50% teaching, and
a lot of different hats to wear.
Wow, right off the bat. And but interviewed, loved it, loved Sally Beard, Dr. Oldham, and the people, the town, and actually before I ever walked in the door at home in St. Joe, is where I'm from, the phone was ringing. They were offering me the job. So it's weird because I've been here ever since, and you never know when you go someplace that you're going to be there 34 years.
And there's something that kept you at Southern then, that really became a match that really fit into what you wanted to accomplish, and tying that together.
It was a good fit, and what kept me here is the people, to be honest with you. It's just the people, they're great people.
Well, the role of a coach, whether you mentioned in high school over a college level, goes beyond the classroom, and you're really molding lives a little differently than you do maybe in the classroom. So you spent a lot of years as a coach, as you said, for volleyball, and then of course softball longer. Your feelings about being able to work with teams like that and build up that teamwork and camaraderie among students.
Yeah, it's golly, teaching and coaching, I love them both, but they're not the same. And way too many kids that I advised that just wanted to coach, and I said, well, hold on here a second, you got to be a teacher, and particularly at the high school level, you're a teacher, and it's totally different. But there's some things that are the same. You have to have certain characteristics to succeed at both teaching and coaching, and I think one thing is energy, enthusiasm, passion. You got to love what you're doing, and they got to be able to tell that you love what you're doing. Empathy, I think probably one of my traits that I had in both the classes and coaching was empathy. Just just trying to think, now how do they feel right now? You know, when a girl struck out with bases loaded, I knew that she didn't feel good. So for me to ream her and make her cry, I'm not sure I would have gotten much out of her, you know, instead of building her up. And the same thing in a classroom. So I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of commonalities, but yet, you know, I do think you mentioned the word teamwork. I think teamwork I see more on coaching than I did in the classroom. But also, actually, administration's teamwork too.
Right, and your position today involves teamwork. You have an
right.
administrative team, so it carries throughout your life, no matter what you're doing, is working with teams. Well, with the softball team, you were able to build it up to a very successful program. And think of the era at the time and the evolution of women's sports at the time. You know, today everybody takes it for granted. We have women's sports at universities, and in those early days, it was still somewhat of a novelty, perhaps sometimes, to have women competing in sports.
Yeah, and as well, I didn't mention, but I didn't have the opportunity to play high school sports, and so I just happened to be playing summer softball when the coach at Northwest Missouri State saw me in the summer and said, "Do you want a scholarship?" I'm like, "Really?" You know,
you'll pay me to go to school to play ball.
So I did play softball at Northwest Missouri State. However, yeah, you're right. We every sport wore the same uniform. You know, back then it was like, and so when I came down here and coaching volleyball and softball, I had several girls that played both. That's getting more difficult to find too. I had several, you know, in the fall I was focused on volleyball, in the spring I was focused on softball, and now it just seems like if you don't do something year round, you're not going to compete. And yeah, I really am truthfully glad I went through the era then, because I like that.
It gives you that appreciation for where you've been and where things are today. Well, during your career as a coach, you've been recognized for your accomplishments, and you reached the top with a national championship. And I know we sat in a set in the studio similar to this when you did that, but you know, thinking back to 1992 when Missouri Southern came home with a national championship.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's so funny because you look back and think, well, I guess that was probably the most exciting moment. However, you know, that we were NCAA Division II then, and I still remember in the NAIA, when I came here, we were NAIA up until 1990, and we had a great deal of success in the late 80s. We had been, the national championship in 86, 87, 89, and I really had attitude about going MIAA, NCAA Division II. I was like, you know, we're fine. You know, we're winning in this NAIA thing. We're winning. You know, I don't want to change. Well, I remember our first year, 1990, in the MIAA, NCAA Division II. It was our first year, and my girls are like, okay, what do we do, Coach? I go, I don't know. We just go play ball, you know. And so I remember we went to Central Missouri and went undefeated in the conference. And my girls looked at me and said, well, what do we do now? I said, well, I don't know. Whatever they tell us to do. Well, we went to regionals in Florida. And we went undefeated in regionals. And they said, well, what do we do now? And at that time, in NCAA Division II, it was a Final Four. Oh, okay. So in 1990, we actually went to the Final Four Division II softball tournament out in California. And it's so funny because I look back now, and that was huge. That was our first year program. Right. And we did, and it's funny because those teams that are there, most of those are Division I now. But anyway. So 90 was kind of the first step into that, and then in 92 it all came together, and wow, it was just an exciting year. And the thing that was great about 92 is the Nationals was in Shawnee, Kansas, which was almost like home because we played conference there, and so we had it was like a home national championship. So yeah, it definitely exciting time, and gosh, never forget it. It's also fun that it was close because I drive by that exit, and every time I drive by that exit, I think, wow,
those memories come
back. Did that
back.
really happen?
Yeah. And do you still keep in touch with former players, the people who were on those teams?
Some, yeah. You know, I think social media, Facebook has helped because you kind of, but yeah, you know, Missouri Southern tries to bring back groups of teams, and so sometimes I get to see them then, and yeah, so. Yeah, I do keep in touch some, and some of them are getting honors. Diane Miller, who was who was the national championship team catcher, she's going to get into the some type of Missouri Hall of Fame that I'm going to go to next month in Springfield. So Yeah, that's
It's
exciting.
like to see them being honored. And of course, you were honored by the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame as well as the Conference Hall of Fame. So having those recognition from your peers and from others must have been really, nice to have that type of recognition.
Yeah, it's again, it's exciting. It's just, but you realize that the truth is that you don't do anything without them. I mean,
Right.
and it's kind of like the way I taught,
Yeah.
I coached. It's like, everybody was important. I don't care who you were. We were not going to go to the national tournament without everybody. So, everybody was important. And I still remember one year we were going to the conference tournament, and one of my girls said, "I have to stay here, Coach, because I have to go to class. I have to go to class and get ready for finals." And I was like, "You're our leading home run hitter." So I called the teacher and said, "You don't know me, but is it okay if I come to the class and she goes to the conference tournament, because the team really needs her more than they do me?" And it was so funny because I still remember that conversation. And she said, "Well, I didn't know she needed to go. She's never said anything." Well, yeah, it would be nice if she came. Funny, first at bat home run conference tournament.
She was there to show what she can do. Tie it together. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, athletics and tying that into teaching, the classroom side of things. So you've always been working with students, and I remember even going to when Missouri Southern would have employee health fairs. You had your kinesiology students doing hands-on work. We had an option as staff to go in and show us we can do sit-ups and things like that.
Yeah.
So your teaching approach, it's more than just I'm going to teach out of the book.
Yeah, very much active, very much. And kinesiology lends itself to that. So we were fortunate because so much is active learning. And but yeah, any chance we had to get out of the book, and we can talk about fitness assessment and fitness testing, but to actually go and do those assessments on human beings rather than just saying here's some data, so they gathered the data and they analyzed the data, and it made it more meaningful to them. I think one of the funnest things too is, and your daughter was involved in it, was our Lifetime Sports Academy, and I love that. And again, that gave our students the opportunity to be the leaders, and it gave that connection to the community.
Right.
And I just think that's one of the best things that we have going, I think, at Missouri Southern and kinesiology department, is that Lifetime Sports Academy.
And that really has a nice approach, because it's not necessarily you have to be on a team. It kind of shows you what you can do as an individual or working with others with, as you say, lifetime recreation.
Yes, and so many kids in the summer look at sport camps. Well, if you're not real skilled, I'm just going to say it. Right. Some kids just don't feel comfortable at a basketball camp or a softball camp or a football camp or whatever, because they don't have the skill. But at Lifetime Sports Academy, you don't have that. It's all individual. You're, whether it's archery or canoeing or fishing or bowling or, you don't feel that team sport pressure to do well. So I think they have a lot of fun.
They always had a lot of fun, and it came home with, as you say, working with those the college students, kind of mentoring them. They look up to the students on the campus who they're working with.
And what better practice for our students, as far as teaching skills and working with students. So, but yeah, so I brought that here. Actually, that was Missouri Western was doing that, and I found out about it because again, being from St. Joe, my nieces and nephews were going to this sports academy at Missouri Western. I said, "What is that?" And as soon as I found out about it, I said, "Oh my gosh, we got to do that
here." And that continues to this day.
Oh yeah, it's very popular.
Very popular program, and even as we're recording it now, people can start registering and
there you
plug
go.
in for helping out along those lines. Well, working with the students in the classroom, you've seen a lot of students go through your major and then go on to different types of careers. So talk a little bit about the career opportunities where you've seen those students in the classroom go.
That's probably the most rewarding. When people say what's the most rewarding thing, I think it is to see your graduates. It's so funny. Right before I walked over here, I had a student come in that I had years ago, and he said, you changed my life. And I'm like, really? But that's what it's all about. He is actually a teacher and a soccer coach at Neosho County Community College. Just saw him 10 minutes before I came over here, and he said, "I came back to campus because my wife's here," but he said, "I wanted to stop and tell you that I had no idea what I was going to do with my life until I got in your class." And he said, "You changed my life." And you're like, wow, you have no, and there's a lot of that goes on that the teacher never knows, but I think that's what it is. It's really trying to create. I told you passion's critical, but if you don't have passion, it's hard to pass passion on. And so I think for our students to, I love it when I see now them out teaching, and some of my best rewards too are some of my former softball players that are now teachers and coaches, and even more than that, one of them from the 80s, Sheila Hunter's daughter, is now on the track team here. So you talk about rewarding when one of your former students or athletes goes on somewhere and winds up, their children come here. That to me is what it's all about.
Seeing those generations coming back and playing that role. And I always say the saying, a teacher's influence never stops, and that's probably an example that you're touching those lives in some way in time.
Yes.
So do you see that that's something you try to instill with the future teachers of tomorrow that you're working with in the program? They're going to be doing that same sort of influence on their students.
Yes, and that was really, I of course moved on to administration, and that's hard because I love teaching. I love the students, and knowing that you had that opportunity to impact students. In the administration role, you don't have that much direct impact with students, so I miss that.
Right. Well, let's talk about the transition to administration. Big step into the big facility, the Hearns Hall location. People may not realize how you actually entered that opportunity.
Well, and, again, I talk about decisions we make and not knowing how they're going to impact things. I remember after I coached 19 years, but somewhere in there I was thinking, I really want to go back and get my doctorate because I love teaching, and when I'm worn out from coaching, which I was, softball was hard. I mowed, I drug the fields, I lined the fields, I planted trees. I mean, I did it all. I was tired, but so I got my doctorate. And, not many coaches really did that, but I wanted that. And so that opened up the opportunity for me, the department chair in kinesiology. So my first administrative role was really the department chair in kinesiology. And that fell perfect because in 2000, when I started that, I just knew that my dad had got diagnosed with cancer, and I thought, I probably should get out of coaching and do something else. And sure enough, it was the right thing to do. Right. So I became the department chair of kinesiology, and I did that for 12 years. But while I was department chair, I was teaching. So I still kept my...
You had your foot in the door doing classrooms.
Exactly. So, But those 12 years were I had a lot of administrative duties. And so then when our dean of education went to Crowder, I got a phone call saying, would you be the dean of education? I said, oh my gosh, I can't leave my kinesiology people. These are my people,
Growing up, I've worked in this.
No way. And so, but then I got with Dr. Al Cade, and said, let's team up. So he was the department chair of teacher ed, and I was the department chair of kinesiology. So we teamed up to do the dean thing. Well, that only lasted a few months, and then I got the phone call to come over to Hearns, and really, to be honest with you, Judy, I was thinking, what do they want me to do now? I was really,
you thought your plate was pretty full.
I thought I'm done. I thought there's no way I'm doing anything else. Well, when I got over there, of course, at that time, A.J. Anglin was the VPAA, and I met with him and Bruce Speck, Dr. Speck, and they just started talking, and they just kept talking. I go, guys, does any of this have anything to do with me? And they said, well, yeah, it does. You're it. And I said, I'm it. What's it? And they would you be the interim vice president of academic affairs? And at the time I was like, really? Because again, it wasn't ever anything I said, oh, I'm going to do this someday in my life. I was perfectly content in kinesiology. Fine, but it was weird. I just thought about it and prayed about it and thought, maybe this is the right thing to do. And as I look back now, I realize it definitely was the right thing to do. I think I think I saw myself as almost a bridge between faculty and administration. I think we needed that at the time. Also, I think my coaching, I felt like I coached. I was like, guys, we've got faculty, we've got staff, we've got administration, we've got students, and we have the same goal.
We are all one team as a university.
We want Missouri Southern to be a great place to work and a great place to go to school. And the only way to do that is all of us. We can't do it without the students, and the students can't do it without the faculty, and the faculty can't do it without me. So why in the world don't we pull together and work?
So we try to instill that sense of teamwork.
Yeah. So I did feel like I'm doing a lot of coaching, or I did. Not maybe quite as much, but yeah, I think it still goes on. But I look back now, and of course, one of the best decisions I made was asking Crystal Lemons to be my assistant. She is phenomenal, and we just made a really good team. And it was supposed to be a 2-year interim, and because we had the change in president and Dr. Marble came in, and we decided, it's probably not a good time to change the VPAA. Again, right? Yeah. So it really worked out. We're doing this third and final year, and so it just seemed like everything's just falling into place, Judy.
And it must be, really feel great to have people recognize your leadership ability to come to you and say, we want you to do this job. That you're
well, yeah, and it's, again, I never really thought about it, and I don't, but I think here's to me, what I take from it, and I feel very good about this, is I think they trust me, and that to me is valuable. I think that is really, and that's what I said about when I talk to people, you have to trust them. You have to trust, that they're making decisions that are right for Missouri Southern, and so that makes me feel good that they trusted me, because the truth is I do love Missouri Southern, and so I want them to know that any decision I make is not about me. It's about what's good for Missouri Southern and our students and our employees, and so I appreciated that, yeah.
Well, students, the focus, of course, of the university is we're here for the students, no matter what your job is. We hear that a lot, and obviously you see it a lot in academic affairs with the faculty and so forth.
Right.
So, putting the students out there in front of everything.
Oh, yeah, they are. That is it. That's why we're here. So.
And we've seen a lot of changes in academic programs over the years, and do you feel that those changes and evolutions will continue?
I do. I think that one of the things we're going to see is more graduate programs, standalone graduate programs, which I think is great. I think for way too many years we thought we had to team up with someone else, and I really don't know that we had to. And there's been way too many private schools in our town providing master's degrees that we could have been doing, and so I think that's going to be big. I think Dr. Marble's great. I think he's really going to be great for Missouri Southern, and yeah, we got a lot of really good people, and that's what's hard about leaving is I don't think I'm not going to miss the decisions and the work, but I'm going to miss the people.
So you won't miss the meetings, but you'll miss working with the people. I know you attend a lot of meetings and activities and so forth. Oh, I know one thing that you have done is put together a newsletter highlighting faculty, which is kind of, sometimes the faculty are kind of a hidden secret as well on campus. People don't realize what they do outside of the classroom.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because one of the very first thing I did was put together a department chair manual, because I was a department chair 12 years, and then when I was passing the baton to Jean Hobbs, she goes, "What do you do?" And I go, "Well, let me write it down." And as I started writing, I thought, oh my gosh, I got to where, well, this is what I do in this month, and this is what I do in this month, and I thought, I'm gonna make a manual, and so I did. But then I realized, talking to faculty, man, that's some pretty cool stuff. You wrote a book, you wrote poetry, you were in a play, you did this, you're the president of this national. And I thought, we need to toot our horn a little bit, because everybody knows that we're in the classroom teaching and we're on these committees, but people don't realize some of the scholarly work that's going on out there. So I told Crystal, I said, Crystal, I think it'd be cool if we put together a little focus on faculty newsletter, and we did. We've done it 2 a year. In fact, we're going to do our next one here this month,
as
end of this
wrap
month.
Up the academic year.
And it's been well received, very well. I think the faculty appreciate it. Like you said, I've been shocked at some of the stuff. It's created conversation that otherwise would not have been there. And the other thing that's cool is I share it with our retired faculty, and I even put a section in there now for where are they now, kind of, and so yeah, it's been well received, and I'm real pleased with it.
Well, we've had a lot of faculty retire from Missouri Southern, and I know over the years when I've interviewed them, they share their memories like you are doing now, and it seems like a lot of it is the people they've worked with throughout the years.
Definitely, it is the people. That's what you miss.
Right. Well, you have had a lot of accomplishments, and if you were to talk to someone, maybe you meet new faculty as they come in, through the process. What sort of words of advice do you give to the up-and-coming faculty member, the new people that are coming to campus to be the future generations of teachers?
That's another funny thing you said that, because I do meet with every candidate, and people probably, what are you doing meeting with them? But it's funny because I've been here so long and I've worn so many hats, they can ask me anything, and but the other thing I think it's important for them to see is the longevity. I said, gosh, look at this. This should tell you something. I've been here 34 years. Your department chair's been here 24 years. And that tells you something, that people like it here. The other thing I do a lot is just say, I am very big into pedagogy and teaching styles, and I say, so how are you going to get that student interested in your class? So, what's your techniques? How do you get that student that's taking your gen ed class that has an attitude, doesn't want to take it?
It's one of those have-to-take type things.
Yeah, and I tell them, here's your gauge. You get that kid that comes in with attitude saying, I don't want to take that class, and they leave your class going, I didn't want to take it, but I'm glad I did. Bingo, you did it. So figure that out. How are you going to get that kid, that student, to say, wow, I'm so glad I took that class? challenge them a little bit.
Yeah. And we've heard a lot about the generations changing for students, you know, whether it's Generation X or whatever, the learning styles of kids coming out of high school, students coming out of high school, different now than they were when we started years ago. You know, how do you do keep those students interested and captivated?
I'll tell you what, you got to have a lot of active learning, but I feel, I'll tell you where you really, the teacher ed program, getting our students prepared to go out and teach with the technology that's out there now, and man, that is a challenge because you can't prepare teachers the way you used to prepare teachers. But then even on our campus, I mean, you know, you can't just stand up there and lecture because you've lost them. They have to be engaged, and it is a lot of, and then how to utilize the internet and how to utilize the technology to enhance your class, and they've come a long way. I mean, you know, gosh, when I was here, we still had the old mimeograph machine, and you know,
a chalkboard with chalk, right?
Yeah, I kind of miss the chalk actually, but yeah.
So even there's continuing education for the existing faculty, the ones who have been for a while. There's always a learning curve for people.
And that's why they do a lot of training, you know, the distance learning, blackboard training, and things to try and let everybody keep up on some of the new and coming techniques and teaching strategies. And
well, I know your successor has been named and will be coming to Southern. Talk a little bit about the transition as you're preparing to leave and a new person's coming on board.
Yeah. I'm really excited about Paula Carson. I'm really excited. They brought in 4 candidates, and I liked every one of them, but I'm really excited about her. I hope, and I've been emailing her, that I get the opportunity. I hope there's enough overlap because I really just want to meet with her and get her up to speed on the status of things. I mean, there's so many things going on the academic side, and I don't want her to be blindsided by where are we on assessment plans and program reviews and gen ed, and I just want to get with her and go through the status of things. And yeah, so she doesn't go to her first meeting going, I have no idea I want her to have an idea.
Yeah. So those projects you mentioned earlier that are still underway, if there's some left, that she can just step right in.
Step right in. I want her to be able to step right in, yeah.
Well, I know the question a lot of people probably ask you about retirement and plans. You know, that people say, well, what are you going to do when you no longer have to come here every day to work?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot of plans. I kind of want it that way. Just I say I want to be available. So if somebody asks me to do something, I can go, well, sure, I'm available. You know, whatever that might be. The one thing I do know I want to do is I want to go to every professional baseball field. That's the only thing I've said that I know I want to do. I love baseball. I absolutely love it, and so I want to go to every field and try the hot dog and rank them. And
so summer of Major League Baseball? And
Major League Baseball in the summer. I want to go to the heat in the winter. I've gotten to where I just can't hardly stand being cold.
Winters we have here.
But I don't know. You know, I'll see how my mom, how she's doing. There's just a lot of factors that weigh in, but I'm looking forward to it. Now, I may get bored and go crazy and work again. I don't know, but I have that option, I guess.
That's one nice thing with retirement. You can make that decision.
Yeah.
So, well, I know there's a lot of people, as you say, that you have impacted over the years. The former student who came to see you today, and they would all probably like to say thank you for what you've done for them and for Missouri Southern.
Yeah. So, well, you know, again, I've enjoyed every minute of it. Yeah. It's not been a job. It's been enjoyable.
And I'd like to thank you for taking time while we're here in the studio and visiting and letting our audience, many of them who may have had you as a coach or as a faculty member or administrator, being here today.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.